Hey, it's me, Vicki Marie. So, hang on to your hats for this video. I'm going to talk about the story of Drew Peterson and especially Stacey Peterson, his wife, one of his many wives, who to this day is still missing and thought to be murdered. And this is, Drew is in prison. He's in prison anyway for murdering another wife. But Stacey has never been found, or has she? This is the question that's coming up at the moment. Now, it's quite an old case in a way, but of course, it's never an old case for the family, especially of a missing person who's not been found, presumed dead. But, you know, listen, when you get into this story, you, like me, will be fuming with the authorities as well as Drew Peterson. But first of all, I just want to say my thank yous. Thank you, everyone who watches my videos, everyone who's subscribed. If you're not subscribed yet, please think about subscribing. It's free. And also a special thank you to my members. Every Thursday is members only live stream. And thank you for that support, because true crime channels are often demonetized, so it's that support from the members makes the difference and helps me continue doing this. Also, I want to thank anyone who has sent me a super, bought me a Ko-fi, sent me a super chat, PayPal'd me, anyone who sent me an email with suggestions for cases or to point my attention at news articles that I might not have seen. Thank you so much for participating in this community. Thank you. Okay, so let's go to this case. Oh my goodness. Now, I've heard about this case a long time. I've been interested in true crime a long time. There's not many cases that I haven't heard about. And this Drew Patterson, he is one of those absolute twonks. They're all twonks. Of course, they're all twonks, especially wife murderers, especially someone who's believed to have murdered two of his wives. And the thing about Drew Peterson as well, he's a wise guy. He thinks he's funny. He loves it. He loves all the attention. He absolutely adores all the attention. He was cracking jokes, when he was on trial for murdering his wife. He thought it was funny. He rang up a radio, so we're going to look at the joke that he made at a radio station about murdering his wife. Lots of things he just thought. He thought he was a good old boy, just loved being the centre of attention. He also used to be a policeman, so he's like a double deviant in my eyes, because police people, they're supposed to protect, the public, protect people they're supposed to take it. If you don't want to take a higher stance, don't be a police person. People should trust in it's people like Drew Patterson that make people suspicious of the police. And loads of police people are out there trying really hard, being sympathetic to families, drawing correlations with their own families, and really trying to help society. Not all of them are, but you know what, that's the same in any profession. But Drew Peterson, he's a typical example of someone who should never have been a policeman and has just brought bad name on the police. Okay, so let's have a look at him and his lovely wife, Stacey. Now, the other thing about him, he was practically a paedophile in my eyes, because when he married Stacey, she was only 19 years old. So here's Stacey, and there's a lot of pictures. Here she is with him. Look, it's like she's hugging her granddad, not even her dad. There was a massive difference between them. Look, she was 19 years old when he married her. The best, so all the best years of her life in front of her, and she wasted them. Unfortunately, the years she had on this twonk. Look, just looks like his daughter or even his granddaughter. You know, what a foul man. What a foul man he was. And of course, men like that, they like young girls because older women wouldn't look at them twice. An older woman would look at a man like him and think, what a twat. Basically, you just look at him, you'd know, because older women have got more experience. And then you'd find a young girl, a young innocent girl who doesn't, unfortunately, realise what a twunk. Look how beautiful she is. What did she see in him? Well, I'll tell you what she saw in him, because she was young and impressionable. And he'll have love bombed her, he'll have made a big fuss of her, probably financially. He was, will have helped her financially, or who knows. But at the end of the day, that is disgusting, isn't it? He was 50 years old, she was 19 when they married. Now here we have a picture of Stacey with her sister, and her sister is going to be very important in this video, because believe it or not, although Stacey is missing and has been missing for a long time, she believes she's found her, and she has the sonar images to prove it. She actually does have the sonar images. She's not just saying it, and I just cannot believe, it is beyond me, how this body that she has found, and she has the images to prove she has found it, which may not be Stacey, to be fair, it may not be, but it's somebody, it's definitely a body. We're going to see these images as we go through this video. It's definitely a body. She believes it may well be her sister's body. Why haven't the authorities gone and got this body? I just don't understand it. I honestly do not understand it. I'm like, what? God, I tell you what, if that was my loved one, she said she'd probably end up pulling it out with her own hand, the skull, because she's found a skull and various bones, or the sonar equipment that she hired has, and it's as clear as anything. You will see it. She said, I'll probably end up putting my own hand in and pulling it out. Well, she doesn't want to destroy forensic evidence, of course. Well, she doesn't want to do it anyway. She shouldn't have to do it. You know, the authorities should be in there recovering these remains, because if they're not Stacey's, they belong to some poor soul, someone whose family's looking for them, and that somebody could be put out their misery, if not actually Stacey's sister. I honestly am like shell shocked that this. Anyway, so I need to start at the beginning, I suppose. Tell you about Drew Peterson and how poor Stacey got, under his spell, really. He took her under his spell, and she's paid with her life, bless her. And her sister will not rest, obviously. Her sister will not rest until, this is her sister now, she will not rest until she has found her sister and laid her to rest properly. And I just feel with her sister, she's very much on her own in this. It feels like that. Where's her support? Where's the police support, the authorities support? And where's her family support, to be honest? Maybe there is no other family now to, support her. I don't know. Or maybe she is getting some support. But it just felt like, to me, when I've seen her being interviewed, feels like she's very much on her own. But maybe not. Oh, gosh, where do I start with this one? So he's 70 years old now, Drew. He was born in 1954. And he was a police sergeant, but he is now a convicted murderer. Let's have a look at Wikipedia, because that's the best place to just get the information. So here he is. He always looks like he's about to smile. He just finds it all hilarious. I mean, to all intents and purposes, we're going to see him being interviewed. He was interviewed very, very short time ago on News Nation by Banfield. What a horrible, horrible man he is. He just is a horrible man. But anyway, so He was found guilty in 2012 of the murder of his third wife, a few months after their divorce. But then he received national publicity in 2007 when his fourth wife, Stacey Peterson, disappeared. And although the police and her family suspect foul play, she's never been found. So he's been married 4 times. So he divorced his first wife, or she divorced him, Carol Brown. She was lucky. He divorced, or she divorced him, his second wife, Vicki with an I, oh my God. And they divorced in 1992. Now you'll see then he married Kathleen Savio, probably was having an affair because he's a serial womanizer, domestic abuser, but he didn't seem to have problems finding women. So women found him attractive, so he's obviously one of those that can put on the charm. So Kathleen Savio says they divorced. They did a divorce, isn't it? No, he was found. Oh, it was after their divorce. So they divorced in 2003, and then after that, that's when she was murdered. Now, her bruised body. Now, this is relevant, isn't it, to the Riley Strain case? Because her bruised body was found in a dry bathtub in her home in 2004 with a large gash to her scalp. And initially her cause of death was found to be accidental drowning. Oh my God. Anyway, it was after Stacy disappeared that the police started looking more into that case. I mean, the fact that he's an ex-police officer, that would have led to the fact of him not being investigated too closely, I think, at the time. Anyway, a second autopsy was done on don't call her Savio, Kathleen's body, a second autopsy, and it showed evidence of a struggle. So he was convicted in 2013, and he was fortunately sentenced to 38 years in prison. Then, while he was in prison in 2015, he was charged with 2 additional felonies: solicitation of murder and solicitation of murder for hire, for attempting to hire James Glasgow, who was the attorney that had handled this prosecution. He was trying to hire a hitman or woman. You never hear the expression hit woman, do you? Funny that, isn't it, when you think about it? Anyway, so he was trying to hire someone to kill his prosecuting attorney. And he was convicted on May the 31st, 2016, and sentenced to an additional 40 years. So he's not coming out of prison. He's definitely not coming out of prison, because he was sentenced to 38 years for the murder of his third wife, Kathleen, and then a further 40 years for the murder, not the murder, but the attempt to hire a hitman for his his prosecutor. So nobody knows, well, according to this, nobody knows where he is, but maybe Banfield did, because she went to see him for some reason. He wanted an interview with Banfield, and, but he just loves attention. He'd probably, if he thought he was going to get lots of attention for it, look at his eyes. God, his eyes just, the thought of having them eyes looking at you, that's your last sight. That poor girl. Well, both of them, poor Kathleen and poor Stacey. So the thing is, his personal life is important, because he had all these. Oh, he was police officer of the year, and he retired from the police at 53 with the rank of sergeant, and was given a tax-free $79,000 a year pension. However, this was terminated during his second conviction in 2016. Why was it only terminated during his second conviction? Why was it not terminated after his first conviction? Anyway, so he married Carol Brown, who he met in high school. They divorced 6 years later because she found out he was being unfaithful. They had 2 sons. Oh, God, no, his poor sons, Stephen Paul Peterson and Eric Drew Peterson. He then married Vicki Connolly, his second wife, and they had a bar together. And there was an alleged history of domestic violence during this 10-year marriage to Drew. And also her daughter testified to this, and because she lived in the household till she was 17. So after Stacy disappeared, because don't forget, she was probably scared. He was a policeman, so she would have been scared to go public about his domestic violence. But anyway, she did. So then later, when Stacy went missing, which, it's a shame in hindsight that she didn't tell anyone, because maybe that might have made some difference to Stacy, but maybe not. But she did tell people, after Stacy went missing, she told people that he threatened to kill her and make it look like an accident. And she divorced him after he started dating Kathleen Savio. So these are the first 2 wives, Carol and Vicki. Sorry, I'm just taking my vitamin tablet just before, otherwise I'll forget. And they were the lucky ones. They're still alive as far as I know. They survived marriage to Drew Peterson. And the next 2 unfortunate wives did not survive marriage to Drew Peterson. Okay, so then he married Kathleen Savio. I wonder how she was a lot younger than him as well. She was 8 years younger than him. They had 2 more sons, Thomas and Christopher. And their divorce was finalised in 2003. And in the 2 years between 2002 and 2004, police were called out to the Peterson house 18 times for domestic violence disturbance calls. And then in 2004, after they were divorced, Kathleen's nude body was found in a dry bathtub in the master suite of the Pheasant Chase Drive residence. And less than a month later, he put the house up for sale. He did not mention her death to the new owners. He said he was only selling the house due to the fact his children enjoyed swimming in the pool at his secondary residence down the street. So, he wasn't sure. I know he had a pension and that, but it makes you wonder where he got his money from, really. Anyway, that was initially ruled an accidental drowning by a coroner's jury that included a police officer who personally knew him. And he assured the other jurors that he was a good man who would never hurt his wife. However, following Stacey Peterson's later disappearance, her body was exhumed and underwent forensic examination on November the 16th. And it was concluded that she died of drowning following a struggle when her body was placed in the bathtub. Extensive bruising and scraping to her back, torso and face, as well as a large unexplained gash in her scalp. The results of the official autopsy have not been released to the public. God. Anyway, so it was found that he had killed her, he'd staged an accident, or staged it to look like an accident, and to cut a very long story short, then he was found guilty and convicted of killing Kathleen. He appealed, he asked for, to make it a mistrial, but he was denied. At 49 years old, he married 19-year-old hotel receptionist Stacy, and she then became Stacey Peterson. Oh gosh, I didn't know this. So Stacey's mother, Christy, had previously been reported missing in 1998. So her mother went missing as well. Where's her mother? Oh my goodness. So this poor sister that is looking for Stacy, is her mother still missing? Let's see, Stacey Peterson. I need to look that up. The thing is, there's so many missing people. You know, so many missing people. I know it's all. Oh, here we go. Here we go. No. No, I need to look into that more. Right, let's see if I can. Sorry, because I think this is important, but I wonder if he knew it. Oh, don't tell me he had something to do with that. I would never be surprised. So they had. So let's see this. So in 1974, Drew Peterson married his first wife, Carol Brown. Then in 1980, they divorced. Now, she says she did not notice controlling behaviour in him, but she did learn of his extramarital affairs. Then, in December 1983, in the meantime, of course, Stacey's not even born yet, because Stacey was only 19 when she married Drew. But the youngest child of her mother and father, Christy and Anthony Cales, in December 1983 died in a house fire. So this family's got a lot of tragedy. So this is Jessica Cales. And then, so that's 83. And then the following year, they had another child. And this was Stacey. So Stacey was not born until 1984. So in the meantime, Christy and Anthony, her mother and father, they've already lost one child in a house fire. Then in 1987, in 1987, another one of Stacey's siblings, Lacey, her younger sister, so they must have had another child since her, dies of sudden infant death syndrome. And reports say that the girl's mother begins showing erratic behaviour. Goodness me. This is how Stacey ended up with Drew, because it feels like, there was a lot going on in her household. Now, then in the meantime, Drew Peterson, he was then 28. He married 23-year-old Victoria, or Vicki Connolly now. And she learned, 10 years later, she'd learned of his extramarital affairs. And they divorced. And he's already dating his next wife, Kathleen Savio, who's the one that he was convicted of murdering. The only one he's been convicted of murdering so far. So he's by now 38. And he marries Kathleen Savio, who's 28. So she's 10 years younger than him. And then in March 1998, I expect this is completely unrelated, but in March 1998, Christy, Stacey's mother, disappears. And then in 2001, 3 years later, Drew meets, she's 17 at the time when he first meets her, Stacey Cales. He meets her. She's 17 years old. She's a receptionist at a hotel, and they begin dating, despite the fact he's still married to Kathleen Savio. So this guy, he's just a serial womanizer. Now, 17-year-old Stacey Cales, she will have been like just his perfect victim, really, because she's lost her mother. Her mother's disappeared. Nobody knows. And as far as I know, she's not been found. God, I mean, sometimes when you look at what happens in families, you think how all these horrible things can happen to one family. How lucky we are if that, I've got a massive family, but nothing like this has ever happened in it. This, it's not perfect family and things have happened, but not like this, people going missing. We've never had anyone going missing. So then in 2002, they had a bitter divorce, him and Kathleen. He probably didn't want to divorce Kathleen, and financially, he wouldn't have wanted to give any money away. But Kathleen was worried. She wrote a letter to the state attorney expressing fears that her husband might kill her. And by the time that letter was sent, 10 service calls had been responded to by the Bolingbroke police regarding Drew and Kathleen. Why did they? On here they've got Drew and Savio, so they've called him by his first name, the twonk that's murdered 2 of his wives, and they call his wife Savio and haven't even got the respect to use her first name. Anyway, police would respond to 8 more calls before Drew Peterson, and then they're using Stacey's surname as well. Why are they using Drew's first name? Anyway, I don't know why. I don't even know why I expect anything different now, but I cannot bear it when they use their surnames like this. And then using the first name for the twonk that's murdered them. Anyway, so there were a lot of child custody complaints, battery, so all sorts. And then in July 2003, Stacey gives birth to her first child. So he's got kids all over the place as well, this guy. And finally, on October the 10th, 2003, the divorce is granted. And Drew and Kathleen divorce. But there's still unresolved issues as far as their marital assets. And Kathleen retains custody of their 2 children who will spend weekends with their father. And then they get set to marry. Drew Peterson and Stacey get ready to marry. So apparently then, February 27th the next year, Drew picked up the children from Kathleen's home, spent the rest of the night at his home with Stacey and his children. I wonder if Stacey knew anything about this murder. And maybe that's another reason why he killed her, because maybe when she threatened to leave him finally, when she realised, that it just wasn't worth, wiping your shoes on, maybe she threatened to leave him and that's why she had to go as well, because maybe she knew too much. So then so he supposedly spends the day at home with his family, including his adult son, Stephen. And then apparently on February the 29th, Drew, Stacey and the children go to the aquarium before attempting to return he and Kathleen's children, Tom and Chris. But Kathleen does not answer the door or her phone. And he leaves messages for her, etc. Anyway, no response, so he gets the neighbours involved. Yeah, that's what happened there. Now, gosh, so when he sells the house, the new people who buy the house, Sharon and Bob Biszowski, they make friends with Stacey. God, this is crazy, isn't it? So, anyway, Stacey, oh God, here we've got another sibling that Stacey loses. So in September 2006, Stacey's half-sister, Tina Ryan, dies of colon cancer at the age of 31. Apparently, Stacey was devastated by the death. And Drew says his wife hit a period of depression after the death, and their marriage began to get rocky. Nothing to do with him, of course. So in 2007, mid-October, Stacey's aunt visits her for the last time, and they did discuss during this meeting that Stacey was seriously considering leaving her marriage. And then apparently on October the 26th, 2007, Stacey tells her husband she wants a divorce, and she tells family members she fears for her life. Gosh, let's just move us on to this. And then on October the 27th, Cassandra Cales leaves Stacey Peterson's home at about 11:30 p.m. with plans to meet at 10 a.m. the next morning to paint the house. And that is the last time Stacey Peterson is ever seen again. He says he returns home at 5:30 from his night shift. And before he goes to bed, Stacey tells him she's going to visit her grandfather in the morning. And then between 10 and 11 a.m., the children wake Drew up and he notices she's not at home. Gosh. Then he calls in to request the night off because he has accumulated sick time. He could use. He's due to retire in the December. Tom's school friends pick him up for a band concert. Drew takes the other three other children to McDonald's. They return home. Tom comes back from the band concert. And then at 9 p.m, oh, this is strange, isn't it? Drew's at home and he receives a call from Stacey, according to him, informing him he is leaving with another man. And then at 9:15, he goes off to look for her. And then at 11:30, Cassandra, her sister, calls him looking for her sister. Drew says she's left him. She's taken her clothes, money, and her passport. God. And then Drew walks to the airport to drive Stacey's car back home. Stacey's car's at the airport. Drew goes to bed. And then in the morning, Bolingbroke police call Drew to inform him that Cassandra Cales has filed a missing persons report for Stacey. See how they give him the heads up? Dear me. So we've got a timeline here established through accounts by Stacey's friends and family. Peterson neighbour Sharon Bijowski leaves her home. So this is the neighbour that's bought the house. Leaves her home to go to the grocery store at 9:40 and reports seeing both of the vehicles in their driveway. At 10:15, a friend calls Stacey about painting the house that day. Drew Peterson, Stacey, still in bed, says she will meet to paint the house later. Did she actually speak to Stacey? Anyway, at 11:55, Bijowski returns from the grocery store and says she only saw one of the vehicles. She asks for Stacey, and Drew Peterson tells her his wife went to visit her grandfather. At 1 p.m, he brings the children over to Bijowski's home and tells her he has an errand to run. He returns in 15 minutes. He asks for the day off. Everyone's trying to reach Stacey, but the calls are going straight to voicemail. And then at 9 p.m, he says that Stacey's called him to tell him she was leaving for another man. So he's took all that time to think about it. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just, I don't want to read all of it. But anyway, so we're getting the gist, aren't we? We're getting the gist. He thinks he's clever, this guy. Because he's a policeman, he's got the police on his side. I mean, it's just awful, really, that the police rang him to give him a heads up. The police were on his side, certainly weren't on Stacey's side, were they? So where do I go to next in this case? Because it's when Stacey went missing that they decided to look again. Kathleen's case. So remember that Kathleen has been declared, it's been declared an accidental death. But after Stacy disappeared and pressure was put on the police, they finally started looking into it more as a possible suspicious death. And they exhumed the body, and it was found that she had died in a struggle, and she had these unexplained bruises and the gash on her scalp, etc. So Drew was finally found guilty. Now, what I want to let you listen to now, this is a joke that Drew made while he was under suspicion before he was actually convicted for his wife's death, Kathleen's death. He phoned a radio, everyone was suspecting him. He was, on the news. Everyone was talking about him. He was loving it. He was like smiling, laughing, cracking jokes. And then on April the 1st, on April Fool's Day, in 2009, I think it was, he phoned a radio station and said he wanted to make a confession. Let's see if this is...
Where's Drew?
We got him, Drew
Peterson.
He finally picked up.
I'm here.
All right, buddy. Well, you called us. What's going on?
I've just been on the phone with my attorney, Joe Bratsky, for the last half hour, and he's telling me just to keep my mouth shut and sit tight, but I got to come clean with this. I wanted to do it with you. Is that okay with you?
Well, I don't know what you're going to say.
Well, this is hard, Banco. This is hard.
Well, I mean, what are you going to do here?
Well,
so everyone thought he was going to make a confession. Oh no, not this twonk.
I just got to tell you, it's been weighing heavy on my chest for some time now, and I just got to say that the chicken wings at Diction Bar and Grill are the best I've ever had. 1023 West Lake. Happy April Fool's Day, man, Cal.
Not really?
Where's Drew?
We got him, Drew.
So do you make a joke about the fact that you're being accused of murdering your wife? Let's listen to it again. What a knob.
Peterson.
He finally picked up.
I'm here.
All right, buddy. Well, you called us. What's going on?
I've just been on the phone with my attorney, Joe Bratsky, for the last half hour, and he's telling me just to keep my mouth shut and sit tight, but I got to come clean with this. I wanted to do it with you. Is that okay with you?
Well, I don't know what you're going to say.
Well, this is hard, Banco. This is hard.
Well, I mean, what are you going to do here?
Well, I just got to tell you, it's been weighing heavy on my chest for some time now, and I just got to say that the chicken wings at Diction Bar and Grill are the best I've ever had. 1023 West Lake.
What a knob.
Happy April Fool's Day, man.
So not a very nice person, basically. He's just shown complete contempt for the fact that, he's murdered his wife. He thinks it's great. He thinks using the murder of his wife as an April Fool's joke. And, to be honest, the other guy's laughing. He's like good old boys all together. He's laughing along with him. It's just beyond contempt, isn't it? This guy, I tell you well, when he does reach the next world, let's just hope that he's going to suffer because, sorry, I want him to suffer. So that's all there is to it. Oh, so where do I go next? Because there's so much to tell you about. So I think I'll go next to an interview that he did recently with Banfield. Now, this is an exclusive. Why he wanted to be interviewed by Banfield, I don't know, because she only shows contempt for him, to be honest. But he did. So good for her for doing the interview. And let's have a look at what he had to say, this twonk. He's now 70 years old. He's in prison. He's not coming out. And let's just see what he had to say.
I asked him, why not just come clean? Why not just admit it all? And what was so compelling,
Let me
he's
just
50
go
years
back.
old now, and he's in shaky health. And since he's almost guaranteed to die behind bars, and I say almost, I really mean he's guaranteed. I asked him, why not just come clean? Why not just admit it all? And what was so compelling about what he said in his answer, maybe wasn't so much what he said as what he didn't say. If I were innocent and someone asked me that, I'd say, because I'm innocent. I don't have anything to confess, for heaven's sake. But Drew Peterson said something quite different. And the conversation you're about to see is edited only for the camera shots, but nothing else. It's otherwise untouched. Take a look. You're definitely not going to live to 127, that's
Sure.
for sure. So what's the downside of just laying it all out there? What's the downside of just saying it all?
What's the downside? I'm not wanting my children to believe that I killed their mothers. I do not want my kids to think that.
There you go. That's what he doesn't want his children to think he killed their mothers. But he did.
That about me.
It sounds like you did do that and you just don't want them to know.
No, I didn't do that. I want them to know the truth and believe the truth.
Drew, I just asked you what's the downside of just laying it all out there. And the answer would have been, there's nothing to lay out. Instead, you said, I don't want my children knowing.
No, I don't want them thinking that of me.
You see what I just did?
Sure.
I asked you what the downside is
Sure.
of just laying it all out there and being honest. And you said you didn't want your children
We
knowing
can
that.
sit here, and you're an expert interviewer, and you can manipulate what I'm saying any way you want.
I'm not manipulating you. I want to know the truth.
I'm saying it's possible. So it's just like my thing is, I'm very guarded now with what I say to you.
I think you let your guard down.
Well,
I think you just said to me, you're not going to lay it all out there because you don't want your children knowing.
I'm not going to say nothing that's going to make my children believe that I killed their mothers.
What if being honest actually made things better?
I have been honest.
Just makes you wonder, doesn't it? So the children believe him? Are the children, look at his eyes there, look at those eyes, he knows it all there. Those eyes just say it all to me. Do his children still visit him then? Are his children still believing that he didn't kill their mothers? That's 2 mothers. So I think he had 2 children to each of them. That's 4 of his kids, is it? He doesn't want them to think he did anything to their mothers, but he is not saying, I did not do anything.
And the thing is, telling them a lie that I did something is ludicrous, stupid. If I did it and wanted to come clean to them, then yes, but I didn't.
What? What?
You know, O.J. Simpson wrote a book called If I Did It.
Right.
And he wrote a book about if he'd done it, this is the way he would have done it.
Right.
Did you ever think about something like that?
No.
O.J.
Not at all.
You never imagined if I'd actually done it, this is the way it would have happened?
I don't think that. Does O.J. get to keep any of that money?
Not anymore.
So it's just like, why do it?
God, it all comes down to money, because he said, does OJ get to keep any of that money? Then why do it? You know, maybe do it to absolve your soul, Drew, because you are going to hell. You are going to hell. You need to be thinking about that. 70 years old now, and, you know, he doesn't look in the best of health. You need to be thinking about the next world now, Drew, really.
You were about to say something. You said, I don't think that, and then you stopped. What was it you were going to say?
I don't think that would be beneficial for me to write a book.
Why not?
For what? What
You got a
reason?
lot of time.
There's no money. There's no money involved in it.
That's not always about money.
Pay
Not
me.
everything's about a payday.
You're going to pay.
Everything's about a payday for Drew. There you go. There's his personality right there. That's why he killed his 3rd wife, because he didn't want to give her any money. who knows with Stacey, probably the same reason. Maybe Stacey knew something about him killing his third wife, because she was certainly around at the time. And, you know, she was very young at the time. So maybe in the end, when she told him that she was going to leave him, he just thought, well, you know too much. Or, well, we can see women don't leave Drew. You know, when he's ready to go, when he's got somebody else, he'll go, but no woman leaves him.
Amy, I'll do it.
Don't you want your conscience clear? Don't you want people to believe your truth? You say no one listens to you. Why not write a book?
I would want my conscience clear only if I was guilty. My conscience is clear.
Whatever.
So how can I clear it anymore?
Do you fear that you're being forgotten?
It don't matter. I'd rather be forgotten. If I'm forgotten, then nobody's bringing up new charges on me or accusing me of something else. I'd rather forget me.
You really want people to forget you?
Sure. Except my children. Other than that, I don't care.
You don't seem to be the kind of person.
I would gather from this that his children are going to see him, because otherwise, you know, now I can't imagine how difficult, you know, I'm just trying to put it, you know, think about it in my own sort of how it would have been for me, you know, if my mum would have gone missing and then my father would have been accused of murdering her, or my mum would have been found dead in the bathtub, and then you know, initially an accidental death, and then years later it was found that he did it and his other wife had gone missing. I just can't compute that. I think most of us, if you think about that with the relevance to your own life, to your own parents, how would you cope with that? But it seems like they're still going to see him, so maybe they do believe him.
From the outside looking in, that wants to be forgotten. You seem to be someone who enjoys the limelight.
Nope. Get me out of it. The limelight is what exaggerated everything and got me in here.
So you're a different person now.
I'm a different person? I'm the same as I always was.
Well, that Drew Peterson loved the limelight.
Yeah, it's just part of my obnoxiousness.
But now,
Just part of my obnoxiousness. I mean, it doesn't take it seriously, does it? You know, it's like what he's trying to say is, oh, that's just the way I am. I'm a bit of a knob, but, you know, I'm not a murderer.
you're saying you don't want the limelight.
I want to be forgotten. Leave me alone.
Well, why is he doing this interview then? Why are you doing this interview, Drew, if you want to be forgotten?
Are you happy that there's fewer letters, fewer headlines?
No.
Some people don't know who Drew Peterson is.
It don't matter. It doesn't matter.
It makes no difference to you one way or the other.
None.
If you're fading from the headlines.
None whatsoever.
Because if you were to decide to come clean and to talk,
I have come clean.
you would no longer be obscure.
Describe your definition of obscure.
Well, fewer and fewer people know who you are. Fewer and fewer people know the story. It's becoming an older story.
Great.
And memories are fading.
Great. Fade. Forget.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation.
Okay, so what do you think of that? I mean, he's a twonk, isn't he? He's a total twonk. Anyway, memories were fading, but of course, not necessarily. Now they're coming back a bit. He is back in the news, as well as not only because of that interview, but now whether it's because of that interview that she's talking about it more. But Stacey Peterson's sister, now knowing a bit more about Stacey's life, as I feel like I do now, about her other siblings, etc. No wonder this sister feels alone, or I'm not saying she feels alone. I'm saying it feels to me like she's alone. It seems like, you know, that family. I don't know where Stacey's father is now, whether he's still alive. But her mum went missing as well. 2 of her siblings died. 3 of her siblings died. So 1 died in a fire. 1 died of sudden infant death syndrome, and the other died of cancer. Her stepsister died at the age of, was it 31, of some kind of cancer. So, you know, this is a family. This is like almost a cursed family, isn't it? So this poor woman, this sister, Stacey's sister, now she's been searching for Stacey ever since. She's never stopped searching for her. And she believes she has found her remains, and she does have the sonar images to prove it. So this is not a question of, oh, let's wait till, get expert confirmation, and then it never comes. This is, she has the confirmation. Let's have a look.
News, the woman who has... All right, now for a first-hand account on all of this breaking news, the woman who has not given up searching for her sister for 16 years. She joins us live now, Stacey's sister, Cassandra Kales. Cassandra, thank you for being with us. You have been relentless looking for your sister and what happened here. And this is a bombshell tonight, the fact that...
Again, if I put this to my family, I've got 2 sisters. And they're quite a lot older than me, so this not going to. But I'm thinking back, if that would have happened, one of my sisters would have gone missing years ago. When we were younger, and they had some twonk partners that would probably been perfectly capable of doing something that Drew did. You would never rest. I would never rest until I knew where my sister was. So this poor girl, and of course she's lost quite a few of her other siblings. Her mum went missing. So, this is like a mission for her.
That these remains have been found in the canal there where Alex was just standing. How did this all come about, Cassandra? Walk us through it.
Basically, I've never stopped. We've had numerous sonar searches, and back in 2007, November 19th in 2007, we found a female body, which was basically my sister. You could see the hair waving.
This, honest to God, when I heard this the first time, I just could not believe it. They actually found her a long time ago.
The breasts and her legs, she was becoming buoyant, but not buoyant enough to come to the top of the surface because she was weighed down. She was at that location.
She was weighed down. So this is years ago they first found Stacey's body, according to her.
For 3 days, the state police were notified, and they didn't do anything. They were sent everything. They had the coordinates, and then me and my team, we were threatened to be arrested if we acted on anything. And after the 3rd day, she was gone, and we just went on continuing searching. Then the spring of 2008, we expanded and continued, and we found her down the canal, resting on the bottom. You can see decomp, not in that video. There's actually another image, and you can see decomp and the flesh going. You can actually see a fish above her body. She still had flesh, but she lost her eyes and her feet were gone. It was kind of turning skeletal. Inform the state police. Again,
this is just, honest to God, I watched this, my jaw just dropped. Now you can, the videos that they're playing in the background where you can clearly see a skull, clearly, as clear as day, can see teeth. You can see it. This is the latest sonar that they found. Because the thing is, bodies do move, don't they? A lot, if she's come dislodged now from wherever she was held down, because as she did, and it's horrible to sort of go into these details, but as she decomposed, they would detach from being held down. It's just horrible to think about. Anyway, having said that, we don't know if this skull, these bones are her sister. But there's somebody. That is somebody's skull. If it's not Stacey's, it's some other poor soul. who's at the bottom of that river. So where are the authorities? Why aren't they going and getting these bones?
Nothing. I think I fought them for like a year, and then they just went out and did a blind dive one day and didn't even like re-sonar it. Then the technology keeps getting better and better, and I looked for the best of the best, and that's when I found the one and only Sonar ROV and had it brought in from Alaska, and that's what we got. And that was just out of sheer luck. It had
incredible.
So this is a sonar expert, the one and only, apparently they're called, and they were brought in from Alaska. She's paid for this herself, and you know, it will have cost quite a bit of money, I suppose. And these are the images they've come up with. I mean, they're as clear as day, as clear as day. They haven't had to be enhanced. Nobody's had to draw a line around them to show what they are. You can see this skull as clear as day.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you. I
Yes.
mean, I'm just looking at the images, Cassandra, and the fact that you had to find this Sonar RV from Alaska to come down and that you were able to locate these remains, it is unbelievable. And I don't understand. I'm just trying to understand, like, what are the police doing? If you were able to locate the skull and other bones and you know where they are, I would think there'd be a dive team in the water tonight going to collect the remains.
No.
Like, what is going on?
That image, that's actually live video you're looking at. You can see the silt moving around the grabber claw. So basically, we had the ROV sitting on top, just in that position, sitting on the bottom, and I had called state police. I had called the state's attorney. They came out. They seen it. I even set up a tent because it was cold out. And we showed them everything, and then we just stood there, and they just said, well, you expect us to come out tonight or right now? And I just get pushed back. And then I had to call them every day. Then I called the FBI, and then finally I got the FBI to come in 3 months later after I was on that. And they just kind of did a blind dive and floated around. I have that on video. They were all just floating on the top of the water the whole time. And then when I was there, they didn't even talk to me, and they treat me like a criminal. So,
God.
and then at the end, they told me that area is cleared. So that area is cleared. Now I'm just trying to get some funds and get that equipment back. And they said it's clear. So there's no crime scene. I'll walk into state police with her skull in my hand. It's somebody's. It's not. I don't know if it's my sister, but it's definitely somebody.
Yeah, I'll end up walking in there with this skull in my hand. That's what'll happen. She'll end up. I probably would have been in there already. The thing is, it is a crime scene, whether it's her sister or not. Somebody's there. They're saying they didn't find it, so they're saying they did dive, and but she says they didn't go down. I don't. You'd think they'd want to find her. I mean, because it would be some kudos for them that finally they found Stacey after all these years. But you'll see in the video we're going to watch in a moment, some people think, and I'm sorry, I just cannot believe that they think this, and makes me upset, because if it was their family, I think they might feel differently. Some twonk in the next video we're going to watch saying that, oh, well, you know, there's cases that need sorting out now that are relevant now, and you know, this is an old case. But if that was his sister, oh my God, I mean, the actual selfishness of it, it's like, if that was your family, you would want that body bringing up, you'd want that twonk convicted of her murder. You'd want some cold justice, some cold comfort. You know, how could he say that as if Stacey doesn't matter anymore because it was a long time ago? She matters just the same as anyone who's just gone missing, except for the fact if somebody's thought to be, you know, still alive. And then obviously, you know, I know there's so many cases out there, but this woman has paid for the sonar images, for the sonar herself, you know, she's given them the images. She must be there somewhere. She must be. Maybe what she needs is to pay someone, you know, Peter Folding's dive team. She needs some expert divers now. If she's established that those remains are there in that canal somewhere. Maybe what she needs now is not as much, you know, when the sonar guys came out, maybe they don't do diving. But the other thing is they'd be wary, wouldn't they, of intruding on a crime scene, you know. I mean, I do agree with that. The thing is, if they, you know, you need some experts going down there who are experienced in recovering remains without, you know, because they'll be hoping to find out what happened to Stacey, though it's unlikely now, isn't it, after all this time, you know, unless there's obvious stab wounds that have dented the bones, you know, a knife that has dented the bones, or a gunshot, a bullet hole or something like that. It's unlikely that they'll be able to identify the cause of death. But I just was blown away when I watched this. I just thought, this poor woman.
Somebody's loved one that needs to be coming home. So.
Yes.
So they say the area is cleared, but you've got the Sonar RV.
So it's somebody's loved one. It's as clear as day, a skull. I could see that. I'm sure you could see it. You don't need to be a sonar expert to see that that was a skull. So if it is not, oh, look at the pain on that woman's face. If it is not Stacey, it's someone.
There with the images. Yeah. I mean, both of those things can't be true. And how far away could that have floated? I mean,
they said it's a rock.
It didn't. It covers with
They said it was a rock.
Yeah, they said that was a rock. And I actually have video footage of that when we went to move the ROV, that we actually bumped the skull and you could see the underside of the skull, like the, you know, the bottom of your skull. It fell off. But it gets resilted over very quick.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your...
So she said, oh God, it gets resilted over very quick. Thing is, once you find it, you've got to dive in that instant. There's no, you can't go back 3 months later or 3 weeks later or even a week later. If you find it, you've got to go down in that moment, I think. Or certainly that same day. I know it takes time to get the divers organised and whatever, but you've just got to. Oh, God. That poor woman, that poor woman. You know, just think about it, your loved one. Knowing that they're there, that you found them, and then but it's either your loved one or somebody's loved one, isn't it? Okay, so let's have a look at this video now. So this is Court TV. This is Vinny. He's...
If it looks like a duck and it acts like a duck, it might be a duck.
Right, but they're not getting all the duck's information. So when they get all the information, then maybe...
You see, this is hit Drew years ago. Obviously, it doesn't look, you know, he's 70 now, the other interview we saw. But this was him when he was the celebrity being interviewed left, right and centre before he was prosecuted. And you see his eyes. Look, he just thinks it's hilarious. It's like, catch me if you can. Catch me if you can. What a twonk.
You begin to think that the public might say that if it looks like a duck and it acts like a duck, it might be a duck.
Right, but they're not getting all the duck's information. So when they get all the information, then maybe we can re-examine that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, this is bringing like flashback. Like even when that was all happening, like everybody's like, really? Really? Huh? And then the trial happened. He got convicted and he got sent away. But stunning new potential developments in all this. Stacey Peterson's sister has been relentlessly trying to find her sister's remains just so she can rest in peace. Think about that. I spoke to her many years ago, and she's had a difficult time getting people to cooperate with her, getting law enforcement to come on board with her. And what she just described to me was, all right, I found something, and then 3 months later they respond. Or I found something and they never respond. And it's absolutely frustrating. But does she have, do you think at any point she'll get that level of cooperation, or does she have to do it on her own? And if she does, what happens? What happens here? Let's bring in our think tank. Joining us live in studio tonight, criminal defense attorney, entertainment attorney, former assistant DA in Atlanta, Daryl Cohen. Also with us, criminal defense attorney Meg Strickler. And finally, the man behind the glasses who is peacocking tonight, criminal defense attorney Josh Schiffer.
Had to wear it for you, brother.
I love it. I love it. All right, Daryl, you know, Cassandra, I feel like she's gotten a really raw deal from the beginning in all of this. And
yeah, I agree. A very raw deal. Why? Why is she treated like a criminal or irritating? You know, she's trying. Honest to God, thank you for saying that, Vinny, because I agree.
There have never been any charges connected to her sister when it seemed very obvious, but it always seemed like law enforcement was a step behind. They got him for the Savio murder.
Kathleen.
Nothing here for Stacy. She just wants the someone to go in there and retrieve these remains. It's not easy to get done. What are your thoughts about the reaction to what she has found and what law enforcement has done?
Well, to start with, she needs emotional closure. But from a law enforcement perspective, he's been convicted. He's got life. He's going to spend the rest of his life in prison. He'll leave on a gurney. So from their perspective, it doesn't matter. What is one more conviction? What is more?
This is the twonk. Sorry, I know he's putting over the way that law enforcement will probably look at it, but it made me so angry when I watched this. I know they'll be looking at it that way. It's another conviction. This guy's been convicted. He's not coming out of prison. He's got life imprisonment and more. He's never coming out. But of course, to this woman, Cassandra, this is her sister. She wants to put her to rest. She doesn't want her sister lying in the bottom of a river forever. You know, she at least wants to, bury her with dignity. Oh, it just makes me so mad.
More time in the court system. It doesn't matter. But for her, it's everything.
Unfortunately, that's true. I mean, they can't expend the money and the resources because it's going to take money and resources. You think ostensibly that the police are here for us, and they are, but they can only do as much as they can do.
But it frustrates me because this is yet another part of the victim coin. Here we have a victim that is not being cared for, taken care of. There's not closure for all of these families. And unlike a lot of the cases where no one ever gets answered, here we've got a family who's...
Yeah, and he may have a strange jacket and glasses on, but he speaks so much more, heartfelt for the family. This is she was 19 when she met that twonk. These are her children. She was alive. She had a life. She had plans. She was going to leave him, and she deserved, she'd had a rough life with her own mother going missing and 3 of her siblings dying young. She had a rough enough life as it was. And, to me, I don't think for Cassandra, her sister, it's probably not as much about the conviction, though I expect it's, she'd like to see him go to court and be found guilty. But I don't think it's about that. I think it's just getting her remains back and having them tested to know that this is Stacy. And don't forget, he blackened Stacy's name by saying she'd run off with another man, left her children. He not only he's murdered her probably, and deposited her remains in the river or wherever he's put them, in that canal maybe, or if maybe it's not her, but somebody, that body, that skull belongs to somebody, and somebody's family deserves to know where they are. It's not even so much about the conviction, is it? Just recovering the remains, testing them. Is it Stacey? And if so, she can give her a proper burial. That's what it should be. And I wonder if the children, if they're still on their dad's side, maybe they're against her as well, which is very sad.
Really gone above and beyond anything that anybody else would be expected to do. Gathered these resources and found something that is well beyond just a little bit of equipment. No, she's gone down there, brought in these materials from Alaska, spent all this money. I'd like to see some of that victim spoken words from our leaders really translate into some action.
Yeah,
Let's get some answers.
Well, it may also be, it's not her sister's remains. It could be someone else.
Exactly.
And if that happens, then the state needs to go down there, spend the time, spend the resources, and let's find out whose remains are down there.
That's true, but I think also that who else would have been the bad guy in the scenario? And since he has been put away, that part is done, check mark. But then we don't know where that skull or those bones are right now. And that canal's deep and wide. And I think, again,
Things
I agree.
continue to move.
Things continue to move. It may be very difficult.
And to me, the problem is this, that the entire investigation of Drew Peterson began with the disappearance of Stacey Peterson, right? Which eventually led to the conviction for the murder of his prior wife, Kathleen Savio. Thank goodness, because they messed up that investigation as well. You know, the medical examiner.
So just going back to that, so they said it was a rock. You can see the teeth as clear as day. How is that a rock? These are teeth. Aren't they? Or am I imagining it? This looks like you know, I'm not an expert on skeletons and stuff like that, but the most thing to me is these look like teeth. That has been enhanced, but you can't see it as clearly on there. But aren't they teeth? Oh, so
Prior wife, Kathleen Savio. Thank goodness, because they messed up that investigation as well. You know, the medical examiner, the coroner. That whole story was bizarre, right? But finally, oh, another missing wife? Okay.
And he was on, remember, when this all happened, he was getting ready to marry wife number 5.
Oh.
So you joke about how many red flags can you pull out of your pocket.
I didn't know that. So he was getting ready to marry his 5th wife when Stacey went missing.
This is yet more. But I really would hope that she could get some closure, because if you know more about the family story, it really is meaningful that this family.
And Stacey didn't just leave. It's not like she went up and left the country just to start it. That did not happen.
Do you hear the ducks quacking? The ducks are all in a row.
Now, his story, when it came out, I mean, we all remember that. We all covered cases back then. And we were all thinking, when he went on Larry King and he's like, I don't beat my wife. And then as we see life goes on, 18 different times the police are called. Policeman, I'm a good policeman. I don't do anything wrong. He had 4 wives, and he's 40-something, and Stacey's 19 at the time. I mean, all of those things add up to.
And that was the part of it, right? The arrogance that oozed continued even after he was arrested.
Yes.
Continued during the trial. And my guess is probably continues today on the inside. Are you shocked? What kind of life do you think
he's happy? He's fine because he's infamous. And you know what I mean? Like, he's probably got a pretty posh situation in prison, in the state prison that he's at.
And when they're locked.
I agree. I think, you know, a man like Drew Peterson, unfortunately, being a wife killer, because there are a lot of people in prison, a lot of men in prison hate women anyway. So if you're not a child killer, he's probably, you know, and because he was infamous, he was all over the TV. He was on the Larry King show he was on the radio, like so that April Fool's joke or whatever. You know, he turned himself into some sort of I mean, it's revolting actually that after murdering 2 women, he would. But I would imagine, in prison, they probably think he's great because they don't care so much. He's probably in with a load of other wife killers anyway, or whatever, or rapists, or a lot of other women haters. The thing that people don't like in prison, are the offenders that don't do well in prison, are offences against children normally, or police officers, of course. Now he is an ex-police officer, but of course now he'd be like an anti-hero for the prisoners. So I bet he is having a great time. I bet he's had a great time from day one.
Locked up for long periods of time, the littlest things become so disproportionately huge because there's just not that much to make much ado out of.
He's probably writing love letters like Murdoch was.
Well, let's now go. What would happen? Let's say that Cassandra is able to, on her own, privately, go down there, retrieve these remains.
We'd have our gimp suits on, wouldn't we? We'd have our gimp suits. We'd be down. If that was my sister, I would cradle that skull. I would bring it up myself, and I would get that tested because I would want to know, is that my sister down there? I mean, it's unlikely that they'll find all the remains and that, but the skull's important, isn't it? You know, that could be tested easily. You know, and find out, is that my sister? And have I found my sister's resting place?
And then get them tested or, you know, dental records, however you're going to do it, and is able to identify these remains as Stacy. Like if she does all this privately, then how does law enforcement respond to that?
Well, so she gets it. We need a cause of death. If we can show that.
You know, you look back at this photo of the two of them, Cassandra and Stacey, when they were kids, and they had a difficult life, you know, with their mum going missing and losing siblings and stuff. But even so, when they were young, they didn't know what was coming, did they? Even worse was coming. But that picture, I think that's a beautiful photo, so beautiful. You know, times change, don't they? Quickly, things change. Poor Stacey. She was unfortunate for her that he walked into that fucking hotel that day and she was a receptionist and he set his sights on her. And because she was vulnerable, he set his sights on loads of women, but lots of women, particularly older ones, wouldn't fall for his bullshit. But unfortunately, Stacey was vulnerable.
The law enforcement can show the cause of death.
Well, let me start first.
Murder.
Let me start first, though. Wait, where do the remains go? Like if she like they won't do it. She does it. She goes down and retrieves her remains. What happens?
If a corpse is identified, then there are laws that will come in because there are very specific regulations as to the care and treatment of a corpse, hence how you get the abuse of a corpse laws and things like that. So a report has to be made. Whether law enforcement does anything with it?
Well, they'd have to because it would be a headline, you know, across the globe.
What are they going to do? Reconvict him of a crime and let him serve another life sentence after he's dead?
You don't get free murders.
I think they're going to charge him.
Thank you, Vinny. That's it. You don't get free murders. It's not like, oh, well, he's done that murder, so you can have buy one murder, get one free. He's exactly right. That guy is so wrong what he's saying. He has to be pursued. If it can be pursued, you know, I understand the police aren't going to put their first resources into a case like this, but she's done all that. The sister, she's got the Sonar people out. She's paid for it herself. She's put a fucking tent up. She's done all that. The least thing they can do is go down and dive. But you know what? If I was her, I wouldn't bother waiting for the police this next time. I would get a private diver in. If they say they're not interested in it, well, because for me, it wouldn't be about the murder conviction. It'd just be about recovering my sister from that fucking bottom of that canal where she's been lying all these years and put her to a respectable rest, you know, and from my own knowledge, that is her and the definite so nobody be saying, oh well, she might have run off with, because there'll always be some twonks out there, maybe even her own children, because of, you know, that man, he's an arch manipulator. He'll have manipulated his children, no doubt about it, and that's why he will never admit to what he's done, because he doesn't want, he said it himself, he doesn't want them to think bad of him. Does he? You know, he just doesn't want them to know what a twonk he is. So he'll have manipulated. He'll have told them, oh, no, you know, she went off with another man. Or don't forget, I picked a car up from the airport. She phoned me. She told me she'd gone off with another man. She didn't care about you kids. She didn't love you kids. She just went off and left you. That'll be what they've had in their ears all this time. So that would be what I would want. That's what his sister will want. Forget the conviction, though he should be convicted. But okay, fair enough. If that's going to cost too much money, fair enough. But let's get her back and let's find out if it is her. And so that the children know she did not run off and leave them with another man. She was, all this time she's been at the bottom of that canal, thanks to that twonk.
Charge him again. They would charge him again because they were already building a case back when she disappeared. They'll go dig up the old boxes from 2007 or whatever year it was.
He's trying to get a new trial, by the way.
Yes. He would love to have another trial on this if they find her and if she's been murdered. Why? Because he is back in the spotlight, and he can be, Drew, I'm no longer a police officer, but I wouldn't hurt anybody.
I think it really comes down to that political decision of the elected prosecutor there. And I hope they've got someone who's got a good head on their shoulders, because it's really expensive, would absolutely make Mr. Peterson more famous than he was already. And that's a sad commentary.
Or pursue the death penalty, like Chad Daybell. You know, make it more that kind of situation where.
Yeah, pursue the death penalty.
No, I disagree. He needs to, if they figure it out that is Stacey Peterson, I think they should pursue an indictment in front of a grand jury and let the taxpayers' world work as the way it should be. The criminal justice system work.
Now, as a taxpayer, I mean, I don't pay tax in America, obviously, but I would hope that all those taxpayers, wouldn't they want their money to go on that? On somebody being brought to justice? I bet if you asked, you know, a selection of people, oh, well, you know, here's your tax dollars. Do you want them to go towards this guy getting convicted of murdering this poor woman? And not only that, you know, making it look as if she'd gone off and left her children and blah, 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 blah. I bet most people would say, yes, we're quite happy with our tax dollars being used that way. That is where how people do want their tax dollars being used. How they don't want their tax dollars being used is, you know, supporting wars in countries far away, or, you know, supplying weapons that murder children, etc. That's what people don't want being done with their tax dollars. But they do want their tax dollars to be used to protect their immediate environment, because at the end of the day, this is a, you know, if they took him to grand jury, took him for a death penalty, you know, it is some sort of a deterrent for other twonks. They think that, no, you know, justice don't ever think that justice can't catch up with you. God, it'd be like saying, oh, well, there was no point in prosecuting the Golden State Bridge killer because, you know, all those people had died so long ago, because he was caught by DNA, wasn't he? His serial killer caught by DNA. I've done a video about him. What they say, oh, well, they died 20 years ago, so what's the point in bringing them to... No. So most people, in my opinion, you let me know what you think in comments. But if you were asked for whatever tax you pay in whatever area you're in, do you want this money to go towards prosecuting criminals, even though it may be, you know, historic crimes? Well, I certainly, and I think most people say yes, yes. That's exactly where we want the money to go, keeping us safe. We don't want the money going to, you know, other shite. We want it going towards keeping us safe.
Dal does not like this.
And let some more people charged with heinous crimes wait for justice. Oh, yeah.
So you're not in agreement. You don't think, you think just,
I think
if she's able to recover these remains and they are her sister, just let her rest in peace.
I think
period. End of story.
I think they need to do an autopsy if they can, what's left. And if it turns out that it was murder, then of course a detective or 2 or 3 or 4 cold case detectives will have to go and try to find out how she was murdered, whether or not they can piece together a charge that's viable.
Let me ask you this though. How much of a difference would discovering the remains at this point be? You know, if it's skeletal remains in a canal, is that enough additional evidence? Like if they had enough evidence before, wouldn't they have charged? Because you don't need a body.
You see, there's your real problem is even identifying her. She could be easily identified.
Now, that's something true that Vinny has said there, because they could have prosecuted him for Stacey's murder, even without a body. You can prosecute without a body. But obviously the reason they didn't do that is because they didn't have maybe enough evidence without the body. there wasn't enough evidence that Stacy was actually dead, maybe even. But and of course they had already prosecuted, you know, once they successfully prosecuted him for the murder of Kathleen, and also for the guy that he tried to take a hit out on. I mean, let's not forget about that. This guy, since he's been in prison, has committed another crime that's invoked a 40-year sentence, actually 2 years longer than the 38-year sentence he got for murdering his wife. That's strange, isn't it? Was it because the second one was a man? You know, why did he get 2 years more for trying to take out a hit on his prosecutor than he did for actually murdering his wife? That doesn't seem to add up for me, but anyway. But so they could have gone ahead with the conviction even without the body. It's right what Vinny says. So it may be that they didn't because there wasn't enough evidence. But of course, once that body, that skull could have a bullet hole in it. You know, they could be obvious, even though it's only skeletonized now. And I know there's less evidence, but it could have, you know, when people get stabbed, quite often it leaves a mark on their ribs, rib cage or whatever, or wherever they were stabbed. And certainly if they were shot, they would be in the bones, in the head or whatever, in the skull or somewhere. Maybe there'd be signs of a bullet hole. So, you know, there's a lot that they can still tell, even though it's skeletal remains. There's still a lot that you can tell.
They've got a living relative, and that's a DNA sequence match. Very easy to determine if that's her sister. The cause of death, all of the other requirements to bring a charge, that's where the state would struggle. But it's also where the state would escape any impending duties or moral guilt, because they could say, listen, it's been too long. We don't have an unmolested crime scene with, you know, gunshot wounds or soft tissues. We just have a skeleton. And skeletons, while they have lots of information, it's not necessarily going to show you a cause of death.
No, but it might do, mightn't it? So until we know, and it's, you know, there could well be an obvious bullet hole in her skull for all we know.
There's not marks on those bones. All right.
Okay. So what do you think? Let me know in comments. Do you think, what would you want your tax dollars to be spent on? Would you be happy for this case? Would you be happy to pay, if you like it, as far as collectively as for divers to go down and collect this person, whoever it is, because it could be anyone. So it could be somebody else who's waiting for news of their loved one. Personally, I would. That's exactly what I want my tax dollars to be paid on. You know, keeping people safe, getting answers for victims, families, just living in the most awful trauma. And I'll tell you what, anyone who turns around and says, oh no, it's not worth it, I wonder if you'd think differently if it was your loved one. It's easy to say it about somebody else's. Look, oh no, that costs too much money to the police department. Yeah, because it's somebody else's trauma, somebody else's suffering. If that was your family, you would want everything done, and that should be the same for all families, in my eyes. Until the answers are found, that is, you know, that is what makes us. I suppose that's what makes us human beings, isn't it? Sets us apart from, you know, as human beings, that we want justice, we want fairness, we want resolution, we want to put an end to. So, I mean, you know, it doesn't put an end to someone's suffering. You know, they're still going to miss their loved one, but at least they get a closure, cold closure, cold comfort, as we keep saying. It's better than no comfort. Ask Samantha Murphy, her family, they want her body back. It's not enough just say, oh, well, yeah, you know, she was murdered and he's been charged and he's going to get prosecuted. But, oh, no, we can't find your mum, but never mind. No. Okay, that's it. So thank you so much. I will be back with talking about Drew Patterson or Stacey Peterson. You know, as soon as I hear any news, as with all the cases that I'm following, I will let you know. And I will remember to live and love wisely, carefully, and as always, I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, may your God go with you, and prayers that Cassandra Callis, Stacey Peterson's sister, get some closure on this. Bye.